But let's say for a moment you could be a unicorn. What would your day be like? Is it all rainbows and sunny skies? Or throughout the day, do you think you more hear things like, wow, a unicorn? I've never met a unicorn. What's it like to, followed by lots of curious questions? Many of us have had this experience. We've walked into a room full of strangers feeling a little awkward, out of place. We are momentarily grateful when that person approaches us, and we have that awkward exchange, like I mentioned earlier, where people just say things off the top of their head about our heights, our skin color, our hair texture, our names, our accents. And while these all seem like compliments, in practice they are calling out difference. They are these microaggressions, these daily sort of slights. The result is that you might feel more othered than welcomed, especially if that feature is something that every stranger comments on. Every stranger points out some difference about your height, or your hair, or your accent. If you were a unicorn, you would have people touching your horn all the time without permission. And yet, this need to invade personal space has nothing to do with rare features. This happens to pregnant women all the time, and pregnancy, it's not rare. We wouldn't all be here. If you were a unicorn, people would ask, where are you from? And you'd say, New Jersey. And they'd say, where are your parents from? California, Texas. But what they're really asking is, where did your people emigrate from? Which is not asked unless you're a unicorn. Because only when you're a unicorn does your difference stand out in a way that's really visible. Maybe the way you've experienced this has not been so overt. Perhaps you tend to share a lot of features with the other people in the room. Maybe your difference just doesn't stand out quite so much. It might then be jarring to learn that these conversation starters aren't received as compliments. See, a compliment is when you say something positive about something that someone has chosen. So, for example, I'm going to share a few observations, and the response is a sincere thank you, and we could be off to a positive conversation. I love the color of your jacket. Wow, it's a beautiful necklace. Did you get it while traveling? You got great style. Where do you shop? Those frames, they really fit you. That's you, Steve. These are different than the first examples earlier because these are comments about things that people chose. It's not the curious comment or question about a feature that is just who we are. See, we don't choose our height, our hair texture, our skin color, accents, or a myriad of other features that make all of us unique. So before uttering that first thought that comes into your mind, when you first meet someone, just reflect for a moment on whether you're doing it merely out of curiosity. That means there's something different that you've noticed about the person in front of you, and you're about to call out that difference by asking about it. And in fact, this is probably something that everyone gets asked. That person gets asked all day, every day. So the response you're going to get is some sort of rote, sort of pat reply. It's not going to lead to a further conversation, and you're not going to make a great or long-lasting impression. You'll also miss the opportunity to really engage with them. Put yourself in their shoes for a moment. Do you remember what it was like when you walked into a space feeling like the only blank in the room? What makes you feel really welcomed into new spaces? I prefer the opening line, "Hi, my name's Robbie." I think you should use your own names. I usually follow this up by asking some open-ended question like, how did you hear about today? What brings you here today? See, this allows people to share just a little bit more about themselves. I try to avoid that ubiquitous, what do you do question, because it sort of reduces the answer to whatever's on their business card, and I can't assume everyone's employed or loves their job. Those curious questions that came to mind when I first met them, they need to wait until we have developed a friendship and I'm willing to share more of my differences, the way in which I'm a unicorn. Because then it won't come across as being curious. It'll come across as deepening a friendship instead of a, wow, you're a unicorn, I've never met a unicorn kind of way. So, as you can see, subtle shifts in body language, being more thoughtful about